This is an RP Blonde movie review.
RP Blonde, I'm back. I got more reviews. Still got a few movies left for 2017. Right now, I am going to bring to our attention another sequel. This is Jumanji 2, Welcome to the Jungle. 2017 will probably be considered as one of all recent years to be the most sequels. There was quite a few this year. Don't know the amount, but it does seem that almost every other movie was a sequel, whether it was part of an ongoing series of late, or the first sequel to a movie where the overall absence spans over several decades. The latter is where I'm going off with this to start the review. There are two of these kinds that came from 2017. The first one, Blade Runner 2049. This was a sequel they waited 35 years in the making to make, and then we finally get it with somewhat dismal results. And now to the second one, Jumanji 2. They felt the sequel was somehow necessary and maybe should be done, but the wait here is 22 years later. I must give you all a refresher course on the first Jumanji. This 1995 release starred Robin Williams, David Alan Grier, and Bonnie Hunt. And the story starts with two kids, while hearing drums somewhere in the house, coming across the board game, covered with an inch of dust up in the attic. The boy and the girl start playing this game by rolling dice and reading the cards. And they do this because there are game pieces. They need to try to get their game pieces to move from start to finish across the board. Each time one reads from the card, something bizarre happens somewhere in the house. What it is either animals of some kind or some character, perhaps like a game hunter, that comes from the game. The two kids stop playing because realizing that something very weird is going on. Well, the girl goes home down the street, but the boy, Alan Parrish, goes back to the game, plays it by himself, and gets sucked into the game. This is all in the first 15 or so minutes. Years go by, and a new family moves in who apparently has two kids. These two kids find the game at some point and somehow unleashes Alan Parrish and just about every animal of the wild from the game. Lots of crazy things going on in this movie, and then the craziness is all over the house, on the street, and even in assorted vehicles. Even the interior of Alan's house starts growing vines, and somehow it starts turning into some kind of jungle or jungle atmosphere. So this is the first Jumanji summed up. And the movie ends with a game with some kind of power itself flying off and landing on a beach somewhere, which is where part 2 starts off. Now, to this sequel defies everything. The characters in Jumanji 2 don't even have the board game. There is hardly any animal craziness or animal scenes in here. And the characters in this sequel become someone completely different than who they are. Starring Dwayne Johnson and Kevin Hart and Jack Black. Now with Dwayne Johnson and Kevin Hart, whose last movie, Central Intelligence, was absolutely conflicting and too silly for a so-called action comedy movie of the summer. Well, here these two are again and a comedy that also tries to be an action movie but ends up all over the effing map. There's even bad guys in this movie, not just the animals. Intended to be a comedy, in the same vein as family entertainment like the 1995 movie, the jokes in here are really more stupid and immature, so really there really isn't much to laugh at. Kevin Hart, the so-called stand-up comedian who has made a big splash this decade, really hits the brakes almost immediately. I could not find much in here, not just to laugh at, just not even amusing. Not even for the one female, a girl, an actress we don't know, who apparently has no female abilities or qualities. Really? She can't even be a girl like the rest of them? So she has to be taught by, of all people, Jack Black's character. I started to say that this sequel defies the first one. Well, the board game gets picked up by a dad running on the beach at the beginning who takes it home, puts it on his son's room, and then the son wakes up hearing drums. And I guess off camera disappears into the game. Then the movie title shows, and then immediately we get 4 separate kids, teenagers, messing around, some with some stupid electronic tech gadgets that really don't do anything and don't belong in this movie. Now please, filmmakers, stop doing this to every time you have a kid in a movie. You've been doing this for 3+ years, maybe 5 now. That is not how the real world works with teenagers. Over the course of events, each one of these kids at school gets detention. The principal, now come on, this is not who runs detention in the real world at school. It's usually a teacher, a coach, or the dean. The principal of this school runs detention and has these 4 kids doing cleanup work. Right after they start, one picks up some box-like console and plugs it into the TV. This is where there is no logic here. How does the board game, which just vanishes without a trace, and years later, it's now in another form, some box-like video game console that's somehow in a empty room in a high school? This, as well as the rest of the movie, makes no sense. Plus the idea that these kids would go into the game and be someone totally different, sometimes bigger, sometimes another sex. I don't know, it's just what stupid BS. I'm not going to go any further with this. I'm done with this review. So here's my rating. I'm going to give you the first movie from 95. That rating is 4 stars. For this sequel in 2017, it's going to get a big jungle size 0. I gotta put this up there as one of the worst movies of the year. Hell, even Baywatch, which also had Dwayne Johnson, that was much better than this. It was silly, but at least it was better. This movie has got to be thrown into the jungle and let the animals eat it up. RP Bond, back out into the wild, out.